Hello, we are live and welcome to the SEO and AI news for week 48 and 47. So, last week I was out of office, I was sick, there's a whole bunch of things. So, I will go through what I've collected from previous week and then, well, the week before this one. So, you'll have 2 weeks. I'll only go through these quickly. So, I'll go through the most important ones from the previous week and then we'll go into the classic content for week 48. So let's just jump right into it to save some time. OpenAI has published a prompting guide, which is quite interesting. So have a look at that. That could always help. I thought it was quite interesting. Google is also showing ads inside AI mode. Again, will that affect CTRs, etc.? It might. We just don't really have a good way of measuring it because there is no AI mode, AI overviews filter in Search Console. So Google, please do that. You're probably not listening, but hey. OpenAI also launched a shopping research feature, and there will be a little bit more on that down there, basically to spoil. Google, you can upload feeds to OpenAI. They have feed documentation, but somebody found out they're also using Google Shopping URLs with the SRLSTID, which means they're just scraping Google again. So really weird. So again, it looks like if you just update your Google Merchant Center feed, that might also affect ChatGPT. Again, yeah, pretty weird stuff there. Also, there is a review snippet documentation update. They're basically stressing the importance of not putting, like, let's say your entire company's review, or let's say note or rating on all pages, right? So for each product, it should be that product's rating. For each, like, again, people have been spamming this, and Google used to just remove rating snippets if you started spamming it. So just, now it's actually in writing. So that's important. Also in Search Console, the things we didn't need, I guess, annotations and brand query filters. So we have not been able to see the brand query filter here in the Scandinavian countries yet. It might be coming. How good will it be? So we actually raised some questions internally. Is it just for the brand, or is it for brands that you're selling as well? Like if you're a multi-brand vendor, will it be able to catch things beyond the classic? Let's say you're Fjällräven, like you're selling clothing, you have specific lines. Kanken bags is a famous line. There's a bunch of branded traffic there. But is that being caught in this filter? So how good will it be compared to my own regex? Probably not as good. Annotations, they're fun, but the plugin that I used, I can't remember the name. The plugin I use is, I think it's Google Search Console Guardian. It also overlays all the Google algorithm updates and indexing issues. This one does not, so you can still create annotations now, but I still prefer the plugin because of that feature. So things we didn't really need are coming to Search Console. Google adds agentic booking to AI mode. This is kind of big. So if you have a service where you can book, you should be looking into how far can an operator or an agent actually go before it gets blocked by, let's say, Cloudflare or something. Can it finalize a booking? This might be a pain point from now on where people, if it says, oh, we can't stop booking, you need to do the rest yourself or start over, they might just go to another and find the client or the competitor that can accomplish a booking straight from an agent. So really be careful here about how we filter, and we need to test if people are human, but should we also let other agents actually be able to finalize things without these checks? How can we filter this correctly and avoid spam? So those are things to bring up with your clients if you're working with them, or if you're booking, I'm talking hotels, all these types of websites. And then finally, a really good article here about how the GPTs sees the web. So again, specifically ChatGPT here. Big conclusion, something that surprised me and a lot of people, I think, is GPTs don't actually see your entire page. It sees parts of it. And yeah, I'm a little bit surprised at how that works and how it synthesizes answers. But there's stages in how, when ChatGPT does a web search, it will pick things probably based on like initial title, meta description, things it can find very easily in the initial document without rendering. What I'm surprised about is that it doesn't see the entire content since it's there. It's just about like, it's about, what's it called? Scraping, I guess, that content. So not seeing the entire HTML. Those context windows would be huge, but just getting that content out and then seeing it. I don't see why, but yeah, pretty interesting article. Really changed the way I see how it works. Great. So that was the week before last week's news. Now let's jump into the regular scheduled content, everyone. Here's a really cool case study on LinkedIn around content pruning, meaning deleting content. And they saw an explosive lift in traffic based on removing, I think, thousands of outdated, off-topic, and low-value URLs. So yeah, content pruning is definitely a thing, and I think a lot of us is aware of it. And I think I tend to forget that sometimes. I've been working a lot with clients with no content at all, and we are starting the process. But just a reminder to actually do these sorts of exercises. And of course, this is a really good segue into how entity-first SEO approaches semantic relevance. And you can actually, in Screaming Frog now, you can look at semantic similarity between pages. You can even visualize it. So you can actually quickly figure out what's not only outdated, that's one thing, which you could do pretty easily, but I would say also looking into how semantically relevant is it to your core topic. You could do even further narrow down your research and maybe destroy or delete sections that are a bit out of focus. So I think that's really cool. And perhaps doing tests. So pruning content, meaning let's just no index them or redirect them, and then if we see negative results, we can quickly remove the redirects, repost the content, etc., etc. So that's very interesting. And of course, Lily Ray shared a really interesting slide that she saw. I can't remember from who here. Patrick Stocks here, entire deck. So one of the slides was how the AI assistant market actually is looking in reality. And yeah, this makes a lot more sense. So I thought that was interesting to share. I'm going to read through the entire slide deck. It was from Ahrefs Evolve. Next up here, Andrea Volpini here is pretty interesting. Says that SEO 3.0 is not about mentions, but it's about tool search. Specifically, again, you could give ChatGPT a product feed. That's one thing. But actually, if you create an MCP, so Model Context Protocol server, you can then create functions that the AI agent can invoke, like a search, like a do this or that, or compare. And so having those tools that it can invoke will give the agent more capabilities in finding specific things. So I think that's an interesting take on the future of SEO. I think SEO, it'll be part of that. We're just adapting to new layers of SEO, but there are still fundamentals that won't change. It's not like SEO will only be about that, especially considering the market share. All right, this one is interesting. Let's show you guys who is watching the video. Google AI Mode is testing inline citations as a scrollable. You can see here it's a little pop-up. So it's a scrollable pop-up, and I like this a lot more in the side version here. Again, I think AI Mode and AI Overview should be much better at giving credit where credit is due. But what I do like is we're actually seeing the brand now, so we can see Zinus and Mattress Firm, which I think is a lot more like, again, we have to look into the value of impressions since we're dropping in clicks. These impressions are more valuable because we're seeing a brand, Mattress Firm. So we have branding. And so we're going the right way with Google AI Mode. We still need a lot better citations, and we need to have a lot better. I prefer WebGuide as a sort of solution for AI in Google Search, because it kind of just organizes different sections, and you're still incited to click, which is what I think AI Mode is not really good at yet. But hey, if it's answering it, again, I think it should be, here is a comparison, and this is what they're comparing, and read more about it here. That should be AI Mode. It shouldn't be just answering the question. That's plagiarism. Great. Brody Clark here is testing out a new shopping research function. Oh yeah, no, that's the yes, that's the one I mentioned earlier. So I did spoil this one, but it looks like ChatGPT might just be scraping Google SERPs and literally using the URLs in Google Shopping and throw them in their shopping feature. So weird, and I guess that means going back to Google and optimizing will help ChatGPT visibility for products. Again, partially. It's all about covering each angle. So also have your product feeds with the specs that OpenAI has, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, always work. Who is the biggest player, right? When it comes to Google, when it comes to shopping and products, it's still Google. So have your merchant center, have your feeds, et cetera, et cetera. Look at them through the lens of Google, the lens of SEO, not just media and PPC. That's very important. Again, web guide is slowly appearing outside of labs in the search. So this was spotted by Mary Haynes. And again, I love web guide and the way that is a solution I like. So we can have a look here at how it looks. Web guide. So it's giving you sections and how to understand scope. Well, this is how AI is very well used to summarize and synthesize a huge chunk of web results, doing the query fan out technique and then giving you all these sections, but still giving people, you're still showcasing content. People will click and read this. So web guide is so good. And this should be how Google will look. I honestly think this will be better than if you do AI mode. Again, AI mode gets a lot of things wrong. I actually had to Google today's week number and it got that wrong. Like it actually got the week number wrong, but the dates are wrong. And it's like, come on. I mean, the meta descriptions and the other results told me that. Like, yeah. Anyway, I digress. A pretty good article on why AI systems produce inconsistent answers. So again, you do a prompt for ChatGPT, and then the next day you do another one. It's a different answer. So here it really explains why and the three main reasons. And I think it's just good to understand. And that's also why it's so hard to, like, if people are asking me, it's so hard to track visibility in AI engines. Well, if you do it over a large set, then you can kind of average it out. But still, how true is that data? This one as well is really interesting about the real value in AI search and SEO tooling, and that it's not LLM monitoring. So if we open this, it's not LLM monitoring, and I like that it goes through funding and the future of LLM tracking tools, and that they have to continue working not only on tracking but actually taking those insights, translating them into outcomes or actual tasks. So that will be the next layer, I think, of LLM tracking tools that will succeed. If you're just doing tracking, like only metrics, I think you'll lose. So I think it's a pretty good article. And it's good for us to understand the world of tracking because that's one of the hard parts of SEO, I think, right? Like, how do we track us having 10 times more impressions in AI overviews and the value of that? I think that's one of those key challenges from SEOs. And then a really good article here on the latest ChatGPT citation study and what factors influence them. So I love the referring domains, which again, it's just correlation here. I don't think it's causality, but I think that still matters when we have to work with something. Domain trust as well. Traffic correlates with high volumes. Okay. I really like that. Higher Google positions. Like, again, these are just like citation ranking factors based on this large study. So I think it's important that it helps us prioritize things because we want to do, like, okay, if let's say we are really stuck in terms of SEO, but the next venture or growth potential is AI, then FAQ section seems to matter. Or maybe not. You can see here it says no minimal or negative correlation. Okay, and let's be careful. How does that correlate with actual Google rankings and visibility? Like, oh, we don't want to include these FAQ sections. Okay, but are they useful for clients? Then we should. Anyway, I think so. And if they're useful for Google search and rankings, then we should include them as well. So really, let's not over-optimize for ChatGPT, right? It's still a small part of the market of search. And then finally, and then you guys can go to rest, the pretty good article again on AI assistance. So this is not ChatGPT focused, but more on how AI platforms are citing, doing citations versus impressions here. So you can look at, for example, mentions for share for Ahrefs. That's pretty good across 6 AI indices. So we can see which of the models have a higher chance of citation and linking. I think perplexity is the big one here. So if we look at how often linked mentions appeared, perplexity is like really, and Gemini as well, they're really, they understand the value of a link. And I've seen in many of my clients that ChatGPT referrals are going down. And I think it's because it's deciding to cite less. So I think that ChatGPT needs to work on a layer and understand the importance of linking out. I know you want to keep people on your product, but linking out the web is still here. It's still personal, still websites. So, AI overviews is really low. So that might be because it's used on a lot of these queries that can be answered quickly. Calories in a banana. All right. AI overviews, here you go. Really, that traffic wasn't very valuable before, but at least when you actually do cite the content, make sure you brand, like give us a brand citation. That would be nice. Google. Anyway, really good study. Have a read through it. And that's it for today's AI and SEO news. Thank you for listening and watching. My name is Frederick Drost. I work for Precies Digital, which I will only do for a week now, and then after I will not mention where I work because I don't have a job. It'll be exciting times. So if anyone's watching this, I am open to work. And I have a few offers on the table already. So yeah, exciting times ahead. Thank you for listening. I will still keep posting these every week. So don't unsubscribe. Actually, do subscribe and like more and comment more. And you'll be rewarded with great insights in a short, nice weekly format. All right. Have a good one. I'll see you all next week.